My Little Pony isn't really a show about romance. In Friendship is Magic's original show Bible, Lauren Foss states, "It is possible to be cute and girly and cool." Among other quotes in the pitch, I feel this really encapsulates Foss' ideas for Equestria and the storylines in MLP. Building on shows she had watched as a kid, MLP has relationship stories between female characters mirroring those that a viewer might experience in real life. Something that the MLP franchise had always had, but was really enhanced in G4 is the adventure aspect. The ponies have agency to fight for the friendships they treasure, and this cool factor, so to speak, is what separates MLP from other shows. From my interpretation, it's these ideas that lead to romance not being a prevalent aspect in G4. An overabundance of romance could lead to female characters falling into tropes or having their entire character arc overtaken by romance. On the other hand, this means when romance is shown in the series, it was written with care so as to write a three-dimensional relationship with fleshed-out characters, who have their own wants and dreams outside of the relationship. The long and short of it is that it's quantity over quality for romantic plots. And with all of this in mind, if every single one of the main characters had a cliché ending where they ended up with a guy, that would really go against the point of the show. In my opinion, how MLP handled romance in its finale with its main characters was pretty much perfect with respect to how the show wanted to write its characters. Thanks for tuning into Glimmer Times, and let's discuss the love lives of the main six in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. After the main six largely avoid romantic plotlines throughout the 9-season run of the show, Friendship is Magic arrives at the last problem. About 14 minutes pass in the episode until Pinkie Pie walks through Twilight's castle doors alongside a colt named Little Cheese. Throughout the song segment following this, we get a look into Pinkie's family with Cheese Sandwich and Little Cheese. While she never outright states Cheese to be her husband, with the clear family dynamic shown, it's pretty clear what the idea was here. And if you want more proof for their love story, there's a comic issue that delves into it. Throughout FIM, Pinkie had a full character arc surrounding herself, where she inevitably realizes that bringing joy and laughter to others is what gives her life purpose and fulfillment. Now with her character arc complete, she was seemingly able to find a romantic partner who was perfect for her, while not having that plotline step over her character. Part of what makes this work so well is that we don't actually see their relationship start on screen, but for the sake of not messing with Pinkie's individual character arc, I think it works fine. Also in the last problem, Applejack and Rainbow Dash enter Twilight's castle together, bantering with dialogue that implies that they live together. Same as Pinkie, these two had fulfilling character arcs throughout the 9 seasons of the show, fleshing out their characters. In addition, they also had a distinct dynamic and rivalry between the two of them, which could have easily spiraled into a relationship. Though in contrast to the Cheese Pie ship, there's a little less evidence here to confidently say they're in a relationship, at least in the episode itself. Surrounding material sure seems to support the ship, like some quotes from the MLP mobile game and the comics. There's also the unfortunate truth that showing an LGBT relationship front and center in a kids show could have led to backlash, so the show writers might have gone for a more vague connotation because of that. Assuming the relationship was intended, I think a series about friendship showing a plotline of friends to lovers makes complete sense. It shouldn't happen to every character because again, an overabundance of romance could diminish individual character arcs. But for two of the main characters, it works really well. On the other hand, assuming it wasn't intended, maybe that's a way of not having too many characters have romantic plotlines in the endgame. Personally, I feel like the subtext shows a concrete relationship, but with everything considered, it really is up to the viewer's opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Keeping up with the last problem, there's a scene of Discord dropping Fluttershy off at Twilight's castle, also implying that they live together. In a similar vein to Apple Dash, these two had a solid friendship throughout the show while also having individual character arcs. Throughout the fandom, this one seems to be a bit more controversial on if it was intended to be perceived as romance or friendship. It took Discord a millennia to understand friendship. Are we to believe he mastered romance so quickly after that? Also, what are the implications of the mortal Fluttershy being romantically involved with an immortal being? The small flash forward at the end of the last problem doesn't have enough time to tackle these questions, so it's up to fan interpretation. For this, I'm hesitant to say romance between them was supposed to be implied, but I can totally understand if a fan interprets it that way. Personally though, I have no idea, and I can't bring myself to concretely say that I believe them to be either friends or lovers. Again, I'd love to know what the public opinion is in the comments. So far we have one pretty much confirmed ship, one kinda sorta implied ship, and one maybe a little implied ship. Returning to what I said at the top of the video about an abundance of romance not being the point of MLP, I think this is the right call. There's romance if you look for it, but it's not the culmination of these individual ponies' character arcs. So with all of that, I'm really happy how romance is presented in the main 6 in the finale of Friendship is Magic. But there's 2 more members of the main 6 that I haven't talked about yet. Rarity is a great case here, having no romance even remotely mentioned in the finale. This contrasts the fact that throughout the series, she was really the only main character to have interest in romance, and actively crush on other ponies. In the finale though, we see her thriving business and the fact that she's done great things with her career. It's completely possible she's romantically involved with another character, but that's not the point of her character arc. She was able to be a successful entrepreneur and leave that as her legacy, with romance not being the end-all be-all of her character arc. I think that's phenomenal character development for Rarity, and that growth means that if she is in a relationship, she can handle it maturely as well. And of course there's Twilight Sparkle in the finale, also not shown without any romantic plotline. She's taken over Celestia's role as a leader, who herself never seemed to have any sort of romantic plot. Echoing my point about Discord earlier in the video, it's kinda hard to write romance with an immortal character, so it makes sense for characters like Twilight and Celestia to be removed from romance. Twilight never even showed romantic interest except for... darn it, I gotta talk about Flash Sentry now. The Equestria Girls spin-off franchise introduces one of the weirdest multiversal love triangles I've ever seen between Twilight Sparkle, Flash Sentry, Sunset Shimmer, Flash Sentry again, Twilight Sparkle again, and Timber Spruce. So what is that, a love hexagon? However, compared to the Friendship is Magic ships, a lot of these are much more concretely spelled out. Before the events of the first Equestria Girls movie, Sunset Shimmer is explicitly stated to have dated Flash Sentry, but the two had broken up. There is then a romantic plotline between Princess Twilight and Flash Sentry in the movie, with the two going to the fall formal dance together before parting at the end of the night. Back in Equestria, Princess Twilight meets her world's Flash Sentry, who she blushes at and then never thinks about again. Starting in the third movie, Human World Flash Sentry crushes on his world's version of Twilight, before having his heart crushed in movie 4 when she moves on to Timber Spruce. Also in that movie, some chemistry heats up between him and Sunset Shimmer, which is touched on a bit in the specials after the movie, but never leads anywhere. Wow, that's kind of a lot to take in. I discussed this a bit more in depth in my video analysis of Sci-Twi a few months back, but I think the nature of the Equestria Girls franchise lends it to romance more so than the main series. The explicit high school setting without the responsibilities of adult life makes it much easier for characters to spend time on relationships without it taking away from their own life goals. This seems to be why Twilight is interested in romance in the human world, while she doesn't seem to ever care for it in Equestria. It also might be that Hasbro thought dolls would sell more with romantic plotlines, so they fell back into romance habits, but that's just a theory, so I guess I'm saying that with a grain of salt. In any case, a high school version of Twilight being able to find a nerdy partner alongside her is really cute, and I love their dynamic. I also think the through line of Sunset and Flash having a toxic relationship, then Sunset growing as a person, and then her being there for him after improving is actually a pretty good message, and I wish it was fleshed out more. Equestria Girls also has a possibly romantic plotline outside of just Twilight's love hexagon, notably the possible pairing of Applejack and Rarity. The two of them share a storyline in the special Roller Coaster of Friendship about prioritizing friendship and believing each other. It's presented as a friendship, but many fans interpret the subtext to mean something more. In response to this, director Katrina Hadley has stated on Twitter that she, quote, thought their conflict felt a little like a lover's quarrel rather than a friend fight as written, so they played it that way, but wrote the line so the viewer could interpret it as either type of relationship. But internally, yeah, they were Rarajack shipping, end quote. Any fans give an opinion on this ship is going to depend on how much they care about what the staff think, but it's interesting to see them talk on this. The idea that the staff might have been internally shipping any of the previously discussed ships might add credit to their canonists, so to speak. But that's going to depend on any fan's specific interpretations on the death of the author debate. As far as the main characters go, that's about it for any evidence pointing to ships with them. Friendship is Magic is not a show about romance. So while there might be romantic endgames for these characters, that wasn't really the priority while writing the show. Like most shipping, it really comes down to personal opinion on how a viewer interprets relationships. So if you ship characters that weren't mentioned here, all the power to you. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and it can be really cool to see how different plot points were interpreted by different fans. As it stands though, the only truly 100% canon and confirmed ships between the main six are really just the explicitly stated marriages between their parents. Thanks for tuning into Glimmer Times, and I'll see you in the next one.